What do you think?
Bro,
It's not. I was thinking chimpanzees at first.
Yeah, I was thinking like gorilla at first. I was thinking gorilla at first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I was to take a very educated guess,
A very
it'd probably be like koala.
Oh my God.
Koala.
Z, you a genius, bro.
It's crazy,
I'm not
bro.
gonna lie to you, bro.
HRD?
Hey, I ain't gonna lie, bro.
HRD?
I ain't gonna lie.
HRD?
Bro!
I ain't gonna lie. Genius, bro.
What is the point of you guys?
Bro, I ain't gonna lie, bro. This is really a waste of our time, Z. Really a waste of our time, bro.
Do that regardless.
Yeah. Alright. Which country's name is...
No! Oh, Mo! I swear!
Answer,
Oh, this guy thinking, he knows. Go on.
Nice one, Mo.
Go.
No,
Can you repeat the question again? I don't know.
What did he say? Which?
Oh, Turkey.
Really a waste of our time.
Bro, I think he meant to say which country is named after an animal or bird or something. Turkey.
Oh. Let me finish the question. Which country's name is derived from the Latin word for silver?
Argentina.
You guys have absolutely smashed that! Bro!
Come on now. What we do? HRD. We stay hard.
Why don't you do a serious one? How about this? Don't show them the answers next time.
No, he ain't showing us no answer. Come on,
Stay there. No, stay there. I don't flip it over either.
Here we go. Question, which country's name is derived from the Latin word
10.
Bro,
Are you fucking...
And that is that for the video. Congratulations, HRD!
Let's go!
Hey, absolutely blew them out the water. What is the point of you guys? Cheers. Chill. Hey, thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe, check them out, and don't subscribe. Get me to under 500 subscribers. We'll see you in a bit. Take care and peace. Chill.
nah, you ruined it, man.
Online on Mac immerses you in a universe. Drama responses are a funny thing in the world of e-celebrities. Looking through the history of the most infamous, it feels like they are almost guaranteed to be horrible and land the creator in an even worse spot than they started. Although there are a handful of exceptions, one of the best examples of this phenomenon would have to be Mizkif.
I'm ashamed that the situations got so bad, but Emmy was also violent. She would throw clothes or plushies at me, and I punched holes in the walls or slammed doors in aggression.
In October of 2025, Emiru, Mizkif's former girlfriend, went live and accused him of alleged domestic abuse, stalking, SA, and blackmail. This was a massive bombshell that sent the Twitch community into a frenzy, ultimately resulting in Mizkif losing half of his viewers, getting dropped from OTK, and people making fun of his clearly rushed, emotional response on stream.
And it is time to go full demon time.
Since then, Miz has been doing bizarre things, like faking a pregnancy scare, making a CGI video of himself as a Jedi Knight, and more importantly, has recently made an official legal response as well as accusations towards Asmongold that he had been flirting with Emiru. Now, it looks like a judge has sided with Mizkif, leading some people to switch sides and start defending him. Hi, I'm the Internet Anarchist. I create weekly YouTube documentaries, and today, we're going to dissect where Miz has been since these allegations dropped, his response, Emiru's response to his response, and, of course, Asmongold's response to Emiru's response to Mizkif's response. Has Mizkif vindicated himself, or did he just hammer the final nail in his coffin? Today, we'll be finding that out, and so much more. For those of you that don't know the context behind this situation, or maybe you do but you're fuzzy on the details since it's been so long, here's the briefest possible recap to get you up to speed. It'll be quick, I promise. Mizkif used to be one of the biggest streamers on Twitch, at his peak averaging around 30,000 live viewers, and sometimes even hitting 100,000. His biggest strength and large source of how he grew so large was the amount of collaborations he would do, hopping on stream with people like Ludwig, XQC, Pokimane, Tyler1, and the list could go on and on. However, this reliance on networking eventually contributed to his downfall. His reputation took a huge hit after his ex-girlfriend and massive streamer, Emiru, publicly spoke about their relationship and accused him of years of alleged controlling and behavior.
Today, I'm finally going to be opening up about the psychological and domestic stalking and threats of blackmail that Mizkif has done towards me, and some of these issues which are still ongoing.
She said they dated privately starting in 2022 and decided to come forward because she believed someone else had recently experienced similar behavior from him. She also claimed he had been threatening to ruin her reputation if she ever spoke out. According to Emiru, he allegedly controlled what she wore, who she spent time with, and even when she streamed. She said things gradually became more aggressive, with him throwing objects, punching holes in walls, slamming doors, and blaming his outbursts on her success whenever she got more viewers or attention than he did. She also accused him of threatening to end it all during arguments to manipulate her, and described one incident where he drove recklessly while angry and talking about ending his life. After they broke up, Emiru said he kept contacting her despite making it clear she wanted to move on. She also described a meeting they had after the breakup where she said he became physically intimate, and I'll let her say it herself because I don't want to get sued.
I let him hold me while I was crying, and he started kissing me in my face, and I let him do it. I was still sobbing a lot. And then, suddenly, he tried to climb on top of me and aggressively shoved his hand down my pants, and I screamed. And when I screamed, he jumped off me like a cat, and instead of apologizing or checking if I was okay, he said, "I feel weird now. I feel like I did something wrong. I have to go." And he immediately left my house while I was still crying.
She later said she was seeking a restraining order. A lot of people online started looking through old clips and screenshots that they believed backed up parts of her story, including images of a black eye, clips of Mizkif throwing things in past relationships, and videos showing holes in walls and angry outbursts. While not every accusation had direct proof, many people felt the older clips matched the behavior she described. Mizkif responded the same day by booting up a live stream, which is possibly the worst thing he could have done in this situation. He admitted the relationship was toxic and acknowledged that he punched walls, slammed doors, and struggled with his mental health, but denied intentionally hurting Emiru. He said he was trying to protect her, claimed many arguments happened while he was under extreme stress, and argued that both of them contributed to the relationship's problems. As shown in the intro, this is where the now infamous clip is from.
I'm ashamed that the situations got so bad, but Emmy was also violent. She would throw clothes or plushies at me, and I punched holes in the walls or slammed doors in aggression.
He also accused Emiru of neglecting her rabbits, showing pictures of what he describes are mites in the rabbit's cage. His response was widely criticized because many felt it focused on shifting the blame instead of taking responsibility. He later said drug use, steroids, depression, and therapy were factors in his behavior, but many questioned why those explanations came after his initial response. The controversy led to Mizkif being removed from OTK, and he later filed a defamation lawsuit against Emiru and Asmongold. Emiru for obvious reasons, and Asmongold most likely because he was the largest creator that says he was broadcasting these claims to the most amount of people. This has been what, like 5 minutes of recap? See, that wasn't so bad, was it? As the days turned into weeks, and more videos covering the Mizkif situation were released, it felt like the case was already settled in the eyes of many people. Mizkif had been cancelled, and that was the end of it. For Mizkif though, it wasn't that simple. Despite losing over half of his viewership, he continued streaming. Over the following weeks, he carried on as if everything was business as usual, repeatedly telling his audience that he was doing mentally fine, and that he was still going to be in demon time.
How have you been doing these days? I'm great. Today, I did laundry for about 4 hours, went to the gym, went to the sauna. What else did I do?
How's your mental? It's great. I'm not kidding you. It's great. I'm very confident and okay. Because I know that I will be okay. It's demon time. But the thing is with demon time, chat, people think demon time is one day. Demon time is not one day. Demon time is a lifestyle. It's long lasting and it will last years. That's what demon time is.
PesaPal now makes your M-Pesa till payments better with your till number integrated with the Pesa.
The problem is that constantly insisting you're doing fine usually has the opposite effect. It makes people think you're not actually okay, and you could see that reflected in his chat. Even after being cancelled, Miz was still averaging around 10,000 live viewers. That's an enormous audience by any standard. But there's another factor to consider. Overhead. It's reasonable to assume that Miz had built his business around a certain level of consistent income. Monthly earnings naturally fluctuate, but creators generally have a reliable average they can plan around. If you suddenly lose half your audience, those expenses don't disappear overnight. With his viewership cut in half, it's very possible that his operating costs exceeded what he was bringing in, leaving him in the red. So what do you do when you've lost a massive portion of your audience? In Mizkif's case, he came up with a spur-of-the-moment idea. He announced that he had a girlfriend.
Yo, I want to make this video to show you guys why I haven't been streaming and why I haven't been live lately. I've actually got a girlfriend, and I don't want to hide her from you, so I'd rather show you guys who she is. So, yeah, I'm going to show you and show who she is today. Her name is Juice. Juice.
The announcement generated attention, but most of the reaction was confusion. Many people weren't even sure if it was serious or just another joke. Considering his already damaged reputation when it came to women, a lot of viewers questioned why he would make something like this public in the first place, even if it were to be true. The attention didn't seem to move the needle enough though. Then, on December 12, Miz announced that he had gotten this woman, Juice, pregnant. Once again, the response was overwhelmingly confused and negative. People questioned whether the story was real or simply another attempt to get news outlets talking about him. It turned out to be the latter. A few days later, Miz admitted on stream that the entire story had been fabricated, specifically to attract media attention. As it turns out, he wasn't even dating the woman. The whole thing was a publicity stunt. As I mentioned earlier, it seems pretty clear that the financial pressure was starting to catch up with him. Between the 2 lawsuits he was involved in and everything else happening behind the scenes, he likely needed a way to bring in more money. So, on December 15, he announced that he would be leaving Twitch permanently and moving to Kick. The announcement was accompanied by an absurdly high-budget video of him dressed as a Jedi, running around and cutting people down with a lightsaber. It's honestly kind of hilarious.
Mizkif, it's time you fulfill the prophecy. It's time you joined the dark side.
The reaction was once again mostly negative. Many viewers called it cringe, while others focused on something much more significant. Just a few months earlier, in June 2025, Miz had publicly said that he would never join Kick in a million years. More specifically, he claimed that the site's owner made him want to do bad things to himself. For years, Miz had taken a strong public stance against gambling content. He was one of the biggest voices pushing for gambling gambling streams to be banned on Twitch. Now, he was joining the very platform most closely associated with gambling and Stake, the online casino that helped fund Kick. To many viewers, even the ones that took his side during the Emiru drama, this felt like Mizkif was selling his soul, even if it was to partly fund his defamation lawsuits. Months passed with not much happening until July 7th when Mizkif uploaded Emiru Lied Part 1. Right from the get-go, you can tell this is what he should have responded with initially instead of his impromptu livestream. In his response, Mizkif argues that Emiru's public allegations against him are misleading and leave out key context. Throughout the video, he repeatedly says that he is presenting his side of the story alongside court filings and publicly available records, which I'll leave a link to so you can view them for yourself and have the full context. One of the first points Mizkif makes is about Emiru allegedly telling her audience that she was in the process of filing restraining orders against him in both Texas and California. According to Mizkif, no restraining order was ever filed. He argues that restraining orders are
You're finally locked in on an edit. Then you realize you don't even have the footage, you're out of credits,
are matters of public record, and says that even roughly 8 months after those statements were made, there is still no evidence that one exists in either state. He uses that to argue that her public statements do not match what actually happened.
I am already in the process of filing a restraining order on him in both Texas and California.
20 months have now passed since the alleged incident without a single criminal complaint, restraining order, or investigation appearing in any record in California or Texas. The only active case arising from any of this is my defamation lawsuit that I brought against her. The total absence of any official action over a year and a half stands in stark contrast to the severity of what she accused me of.
When she finally did raise it, a full year after the date, she points to it was not to the police. It was an audience of millions on a live stream.
Mizkif also focuses on Emiru's allegations that he essayed her. He says that although she publicly described the incident as essay, her legal team later argued in court that her statements reflected her emotional truth rather than a literal statement of fact. According to Mizkif, he believes that distinction is significant because emotional truth is different from accusing someone of committing a crime, and he argues that this change in language undermines the certainty of her original public accusations.
She said, and I quote, "Her story is admirable and, in telling it, she is stating her emotional truth, not some statement of decisive fact."
My attorneys answered that with one line. Emotional truth is not a recognized defense to defamation in Texas. And this is not just my side spin on her defense. The magistrate judge, restating Shunk's own motion in her own words, described it in exactly those terms. She also argues that her statement, considered in its entirety, was an opinion or her protected emotional truth. The judge did not buy it on the part that matters the most. Vague feelings about a relationship can be protected opinion. But falsely accusing someone of sexual assault, the judge held, is different because those words can only mean one thing, that I committed a crime.
Another point Mizkif raises is that Emiru allegedly left out what happened after the incident she describes. According to him, the encounter she references was not the final time they were together. He says they continued seeing each other, continued communicating, and allegedly hooked up multiple times afterward, with their relationship continuing on and off until their final breakup in January 2025.
And here is what does not fit an assault. We kept dating for months afterward. Her own messages, laid out in the next two sections, show her coming over, cooking me dinner, asking to sleep together, calling me babe, messaging me, "Merry Christmas, babe." When it ended in January 2025, I was the one who walked away, and she is the one who did not want to split up.
Mizkif also disputes Emiru's allegations that he stalked her after their breakup. According to him, he intentionally distanced himself by traveling to Japan shortly after they separated, later returning only briefly before leaving again. and eventually moving to Los Angeles. He even includes a timeline of the alleged events, arguing that these actions are inconsistent with stalking another person. He also points to the same lack of any restraining order as something he believes contradicts those allegations. Regarding the specific incident Emiru allegedly described as stalking, Mizkif says he had been invited to a friend's house after returning from Japan. He claims he opened a door during a tour of the house, noticed several OTK members sitting inside, immediately closed the door, and walked away. According to Mizkif, that brief interaction was later characterized as stalking, something he strongly denies.
I have never talked to her in person since. I have been removed from OTK Discords. I did see her at a party once, at Simply's house, one of my close friends. The house was very small and I opened the door. I said, whoops, I want to make it very clear I was not following her. It just happened that I was with someone she knew the entire night. The house is about 2,000 square feet with about 50 people. I, of course, was near her, but I was never following her. The specific incident she calls stalking is a party. Here is how she described it on her own stream from the certified transcript she filed herself. I made the mistake of thinking that I only had to cut him off through personal private communication, but I also had to start avoiding going to the same parties or places I was worried he'd be. There was a party that I attended. I was aware that he would be there and I thought it wouldn't be a big deal. We're adults, right? During this party, I felt like he was following me around and monitoring me, but I thought that was just being paranoid. About 30 minutes later, the room that we're in, the door opens, it's Miz. He opens the door, makes eye contact with me, goes ooh, and closes the door and leaves. That is the entirety of her stalking.
In a sphere, there are big alliances with strong militaries and economies, and small alliances that rely on them for security.
Allegations.
Finally, Mizkif addresses the implication that he physically abused Emiru after she appeared with a black eye. He says the only incident that ever caused the injury was an accident in which he tossed his phone onto his bed. It bounced unexpectedly and struck her near the eye. According to Mizkif, it was completely unintentional. He apologized immediately, and he stopped throwing his phone after that. He argues that the injury was later presented in a way that allegedly suggested abuse, despite, in his view, being nothing more than an accident.
When a friend asked her directly whether something had given her the black eye, she answered that it was not intentional and called the whole thing a funny story that she would explain later. Verbatim, did someone knock you out, Emily? Emiru said, not intentionally. I got a black eye a week or two and it's finally almost gone. It's a long story, but funny as fuck. LOL, I'll DM you later. There was never a police report. There is nothing in any record from that time that treats this as an abuse in calls, text messages, or anything that me and Emiru had. It was not called intentional abuse until 3 years later when Emiru went live. The bruise never changed.
The biggest bombshell that Miz reveals during this video is that the judge recommended the case move forward.
But what changed is that in June 2026, a federal judge reviewed her request to throw my entire case out and recommended the opposite, that it moves forward.
When this video first came out, the initial reaction from people who actually watched it was surprisingly positive. It seemed like Mizkif had put together a compelling case for himself, and might have even been starting to shift public opinion back in his favor. Even other creators appeared to agree.
I hate Mizkif. Objectively, he is right. A lot of his points are genuinely valid, and there are inconsistencies in Emiru's story. It doesn't matter what you think about Mizkif. Nobody should be accused of a crime under the guise of emotional truth.
XQC's girlfriend called Emiru's actions silly, and Destiny commented that, in his opinion, it felt like Emiru was lying. Then, Mizkif completely fumbled the momentum. The very next day, he tweeted, "Hey, at Asmongold, you gonna react to your queen Emiru's 48 minutes of lies? Or do you want to keep hitting on her, saying how cool you are for using the N-word as passwords at 33 years old? Emiru sent this to me in a screenshot years ago." Attached to the tweet was what appeared to be a screenshot of DMs between Asmongold and Emiru, in which Asmongold seemingly showed that his password was the N-word. I genuinely have no idea why he thought posting this was a good idea, even if he had been completely right about what he thought the screenshots showed. It completely backfired. For starters, before either Asmongold or Emiru responded, most of the replies didn't seem to care at all. If anything, people thought it was funny. Some were even jokingly calling Asmongold based and referring to Amiru as a quote, based right-wing chud. Second, people immediately pointed out the hypocrisy. Replies began circulating screenshots of Mizkif himself using the N-word in DMs with friends. Finally, and most importantly, the screenshots were missing almost all of their context. The following day, Amiru posted the full conversation, showing what had actually been discussed. According to the screenshots, they were talking about a particularly notorious viewer who would constantly spam the N-word in chat, using random combinations of letters, numbers, and even Egyptian hieroglyphs to bypass filters. At first, Asmongold said he couldn't respond because he was being sued for defamation by Mizkif. A few days later, however, that lawsuit was dropped, allowing him to address everything publicly. On stream, he essentially confirmed the same explanation Amiru had already given, and pointed out the irony that Mizkif was trying to sue him for defamation while spreading baseless screenshots. That wasn't the only thing Asmongold talked about though. Later in stream, he brought up that Mizkif had openly admitted to encouraging people to watch his videos by paying them. He also said Mizkif had created a Chrome extension that viewers could install to generate quote tickets, which could apparently be exchanged for money.
What the f? So you have to watch? What? So this is like an ad campaign? It's happening again. I updated the extension, but oh my god.
This wasn't just speculation. I went into Mizkif's Discord server myself and verified that the system does in fact exist. When you combine that with the large number of comments that were supposedly deleted by accident from the original video, it starts to paint a familiar picture. Rather than simply letting his evidence and legal arguments speak for themselves, Mizkif once again seems determined to control the narrative surrounding his content. Whether intentional or not, it gave his critics even more ammunition and distracted from what had initially been a surprisingly effective presentation of his case. You may be asking yourself, what does Mizkif's stream look like today? Well, clicking on his most recent stream, and it starts with him playing slots on stake. Then he jumps over to Twitter, watches people he once considered friends, stares at chat looking visibly angry, and then goes right back to gambling. It's honestly a pretty sad state of affairs. This might be one of the most depressing streams I've ever watched. For almost the entire stream, Mizkif is just gambling, while the only real interaction from chat is people asking about the drama. He's even said recently that he hasn't seen his family in months, and that he couldn't visit them for Christmas.
Like, I didn't go home for Christmas, because I just didn't want, not that I think they would like, say anything about it, but I just didn't want them to like have it in the back of their head or me feel weird about it, so I just didn't want to go home and even see my family.
Compare that to the upbeat, energetic personality he had in his older streams, and the difference is night and day. He genuinely feels like a completely different person now. It's almost unrecognizable. The biggest obstacle Mizkif faces right now is himself. He actually had an opportunity to turn public opinion in his favor, and to some extent, that was already starting to happen. But he just can't seem to get out of his own way. Instead of letting people hear him out, he insists on being as vindictive as possible. On top of that, he paid viewers to artificially boost engagement on his video, which completely undermines his credibility before people even have a chance to listen to what he has to say. Whether or not he will be able to prove his case or not is up for debate, and only time will tell. He still has yet to post a part 2 of his video, and this may shed more light on details that were not elaborated on further. Speaking of YouTubers trying to make a comeback, EDP445 was just unbanned from YouTube by accident, and now he seems to be making a comeback. Click the video on screen to find out more.
Work is a pain in the apps. My files are in this app, my chat's in this app.
Daniel just bought ecstasy on Hansa. It's one of the largest darknet markets, offering drugs, weapons, malware, stolen credit card info, and more. Unfortunately, Daniel's order doesn't go as planned. He gets into an argument with the vendor, Dutch Candy Shop. It goes nowhere. So Daniel does what any frustrated customer would do. He contacts customer support. A moderator steps in to help. but the dispute escalates. So the mod calls for an admin. The admin replies quickly, calms the situation down, and solves the problem within minutes. Hansa's service is smooth, professional, and efficient. The admin in particular is good at his job. But he's even better at his real job, working undercover for the Dutch police's high-tech crime unit. They've successfully infiltrated Hansa's servers and taken over operations. Unbeknownst to anybody in the digital underworld, they're dismantling the site's promises of anonymity, identifying vendors, reading supposedly encrypted chats, and tracking their home addresses. But all it takes is one wrong message, one small mistake, and they could realize he's a fraud. This is the story of one of the boldest international police investigations of all time, likely the largest trap in darknet history. This is Operation Bayonet. This story is largely based on Wired's reporting on the operation. You'll find links in the description. It's 2017, and law enforcement is having a tough time. Darknet markets are on the rise. They offer completely new ways for criminals to sell their goods and services, and tracking down who's behind them is hard. The operators hide behind layers of anonymity and encryption. After years of investigation, in 2013, law enforcement in the United States finally caught their first Darknet king, Ross Ulbricht, the mastermind behind the infamous Silk Road.
The black market bazaar known as the Silk Road is now offline and the founder behind bars.
But the victory was short-lived. Just 35 days later, former Silk Road moderators launched Silk Road 2.0. When old kings fall, new ones rise. The number of darknet markets exploded. AlphaBay appeared in 2014, and it grew exponentially. About a year after its launch, the site claimed it had over 200,000 registered users and 40,000 vendors. Now, it processes more than $500,000 in transactions every single day. AlphaBay is bigger than Silk Road ever was. Its operator, Alpha02, is crowned the new king of the darknet. A global manhunt ensues to bring him down. We covered that story in one of our first videos in this channel. How time flies. May 2017. A team of US investigators arrives at Europol headquarters in The Hague. They're here to meet with other law enforcement agencies. They share updates on their investigations and make sure no toes get stepped on. The Americans kick things off. They're in a good mood. The team believes they've found AlphaBay's server and its operator. All clues point to Thailand. Now they're about to make their move.
This game, you're not ready for.
You might have noticed, we got reenactments now, just to step it up a notch. Organizing shoots like these is pretty complicated, and there's so many moving parts because of the sliders. Get it? Sorry, where was I? Oh yeah, a smooth segue into an ad. There are many moving parts, just like in business. Today's sponsor, Odoo, bundles all that complexity into a single suite of over 45 interconnected apps. Accounting, boom. Sales, boom. HR, boom. And they all talk to each other. Make a sale and it's instantly reflected in your accounting. Ship a product and your inventory updates automatically. The interface is easy to use, even if you're not particularly tech savvy. Your first application is free for $4. After a short coffee break, the link in the description to get started. After a short coffee break, the technical advisor to the Dutch prosecutor's office takes the stage. He starts with an update on their current investigations into Hansa. As he shares more and more details, the room begins to buzz with excitement. And then he suggests something truly insane. Every device that connects with the internet has an IP address. This unique address allows it to be identified so it can send and receive data. An IP address can also give away rough location details, like the city your laptop is in and who your internet provider is. That's why Daniel likes to use the Tor browser. Tor works with layered encryption. Before Daniel's data enters the network, it's encrypted multiple times, wrapped in layers like an onion. Then Tor routes Daniel's traffic through 3 random servers in the Tor network, so-called relays. Daniel's traffic hops from one relay to the next. Each relay peels away a layer of encryption, revealing only where Daniel's traffic should go next. The final server in the chain is the exit relay. It sends the request to the public internet. The site Daniel connects to will only see the IP of that exit relay, not Daniel's real one. Tor also stops websites from tracking and building a profile on the user by making it more difficult to see who they are and what they're looking at. When he closes the browser, its cookies and history are automatically wiped. Sites can also be hosted within the Tor network. They use special .onion domains and are only accessible over secure Tor connections. The anonymity Tor offers is crucial for journalists, activists living in authoritarian regimes, and whistleblowers. But it's also great for users like Daniel, who want to buy drugs or other illicit goods, and for the people selling them. Darknet markets usually take even more precautions. Along with Tor, users and vendors communicate via encrypted chats and use relatively anonymous payment methods like crypto. These layers of protection make it hard for law enforcement to track down the real location of a darknet market server, its operator, or individual vendors and buyers. Hard, but not impossible. If law enforcement identifies where chunks of Tor infrastructure are located, they can monitor these relays, sometimes for years. They measure the timing and size of traffic as it exits a Tor node. Then they correlate this with data provided by internet service providers. ISP data, the info connected to your IP address, is often available to law enforcement. For example, a user keeps connecting to the Tor network at certain times. Very briefly afterward, traffic of the same size exits a specific node. Chances are, that traffic belongs to that specific user. This is how German authorities were able to track down one of the people behind a pedophile darknet platform. Tor explicitly warns users about traffic correlation and timing analysis, as it does not defend against such a threat model. But, well, none of that was even necessary in Hansa's case. The operators simply done goofed. It's the fall of 2016, roughly 9 months before the FBI starts to close in on Alpha 02. Researchers from Bitdefender, a private cybersecurity company working with Europol, discover something in a Dutch data center. A weird server. It looks like it's used for staging. Staging servers are essentially test labs. Developers use them to try out new features before pushing them live. This server contains code, configs, and backups. They all link to a Tor frontend. It seems to be used for a darknet market. But unlike the darknet market it appears to belong to, it isn't concealed. The server isn't hidden in the Tor network. The operators seem to have just left it here, out in the open clearnet, vulnerable and unprotected. And as the researchers dig in, they even find clues about which darknet market the staging server belongs to. Hansa.
Native US static IP, only $1.99 for first-time buyers. Select an IP range.
To this day, Bitdefender has never disclosed how exactly they found the server in the first place. We asked them, but they didn't respond. Back in 2016, Bitdefender's researchers report the server to Europol, who in turn inform the Dutch authorities. For the police, it's a golden opportunity. After receiving the server's IP, they move quickly. They contact the web host, the company that provides the staging server to the Hansa admins. Then they visit the data center and install network monitoring equipment. This tech monitors all traffic going in and out of the staging server. In this way, they find out that the staging server is connected to another server in the same location. And this one is protected by Tor. And it's running Hansa's live site. They also identify other servers, 4 machines located in Germany. The investigators create bit-for-bit copies of the server drives and find a trove of evidence. It's basically the entire digital history of the darknet market. They find its source code and a key database. They gain access to the marketplace's transaction history. They find a collection of usernames and password hashes and almost every encrypted message users have sent through its anonymous system. Then the investigators hit the jackpot. On one of the German servers, they stumbled upon logs of an internet relay chat between the two Hansa admins. They go by HL and Ron Swanson. 17,000 messages dating back years. In them, the investigators find both admins' full names and one home address. HL and Ron Swanson are Germans. On the servers, the Dutch also find the admins' private PGP keys. Pretty good privacy is an encryption method used to secure messages and files, and PGP keys are powerful, not something to be left lying around. They can be used to decrypt and read messages the admins receive and also verify their identities to others. With them, police could impersonate the admins. But then, the Hansa server suddenly goes silent. It seems like the admins suspect something is off. They move their site to another Tor-protected server in an unknown data center. It's a real setback for the investigation. For a while, the trail goes cold. The investigators know who Ron Swanson and HL are, but now arresting them isn't enough. They want the keys to the kingdom back. They want the site itself. In their old chats, the two admins mention a Bitcoin address. They used it for paying the Dutch web host. And suddenly, there's activity on that exact address. The admins have sent Bitcoin somewhere. Using a tool called Reactor, Dutch police trace the transaction to a Bitcoin payment processor called BitPay. The company lets users spend crypto on regular goods and services. And it has an office in the Netherlands. Bingo. Dutch police sent BitPay a legal demand to disclose more information about the transaction. The company has no choice but to reveal the recipient. Turns out the Hansa admins used BitPay to pay for servers in Lithuania. Everyone in the Europol meeting room listens anxiously as the Dutch technical advisor presents their findings. He says they're ready to arrest the two Hansa admins with the help of German police. But why just shut the market down? Instead, they propose something else. Something far riskier. After the arrests in Germany, and with the help of the Lithuanian authorities, the Dutch police want to take over Hansa. Then, they want to run the site themselves. First, the Americans would take down Alphabet. As usual, users and vendors would jump to another major market, such as Hansa. They would simply continue buying and selling their drugs, weapons, hacking tools, etc., believing everything was business as usual. But now the cops would control the market. A giant honeypot. The meeting room fills with chatter and doubt. Is this ethically okay? Law enforcement would run a darknet market. They would watch as people buy guns, stolen credit card data to steal from innocent people, and tools to hack more people and steal even more. They wouldn't stop any of it. They'd just let it happen. And what if anybody caught wind of the operation? It could turn into an enormous scandal. Still, it's a unique opportunity. This could fundamentally shake users' trust in these markets. Are you really messaging a moderator? Or are you talking to the police? Are you dealing with a trusted vendor? Or are you being tricked by the cops? In the end, the FBI, the DEA, Europol, and the Dutch police collectively decide it's worth the risk. Time for Operation Bayonet.
Introducing Clip B. Whatever you can picture, you can generate. Want something wild like a man poses?
Step 1. Arrest Alpha 02. On July 5, 2017, Alpha 02's time has come. Authorities have hunted him for years, ultimately identifying him as Alexandra Kaz. They've tracked him to his villa in Bangkok, where he and his wife live a life of luxury. And, crucially, the laptop he uses to log into Alphabet is here. So they come up with a plan. A gray Toyota Camry enters a dead-end street and heads toward Kaz's house. Behind the wheel is a Royal Thai police agent in civilian disguise. She tells the security guard she took a wrong turn. Then she tries to back up, deliberately causing a minor accident. Kaz hears the bang in front of his house. He grabs his phone and rushes out. It's a mistake. He's swarmed by several officers. He tries to dash back inside, but it's too late. They find his laptop in the bedroom. It's on and unlocked, and Alpha 02 is still logged into the server hosting Alpha Bay. They dig through the laptop and uncover multiple passwords for the Alpha Bay website and its servers. Then, they silently shut down the marketplace. No one knows why it suddenly goes offline. The FBI wants everyone in the community to believe that Alpha 02 ran off with all the crypto the site keeps in escrow, that he pulled an exit scam. Step 2. Take over Hansa. First, the Dutch need to take out the real admins without anybody noticing. The 2 German Hansa admins are already under investigation in their home country. Along with operating one of the largest darknet markets, they're suspected of running a site for pirated ebooks and audiobooks called lul.to. The ongoing investigation into lul.to provides the perfect cover. German authorities carry out the arrests. Ron Swanson and HL are taken into custody. Hoping for reduced sentences, they hand over their passwords for Talks, a peer-to-peer chat system they use to communicate with their 4 moderators. While the 2 admins are taken into custody, Dutch agents arrive at the Hansa servers in Lithuania. They remove a hard drive from the machine. Now they can access a full backup of the Hansa database. The agents duplicate everything in their own computers, every digital component of the market. Then they begin to construct an exact clone of the site on a Dutch server. Wired describes how for the next 2 days, the investigators code their Hansa copy, barely sleeping. From early morning until well past midnight, they sit at their keyboards in a conference room in Driebergen. Pizza boxes stack up. There are chocolate and chip wrappers everywhere. Energy cans pile higher and higher. It smells so bad that the head of investigation flees from the room after only 10 minutes. Someone brings in an air freshener, but it doesn't help. The pressure is massive. At one point, someone knocks over a soda. It spills across the conference table, heading straight for the laptop that holds all of the Hansa data. One of the agents lunges for it and saves it just in time. Later, a single typo in a command brings the site down. For a few long, terrifying minutes, panic fills the room. If they can't bring the site back up, the whole operation could collapse. But they manage to fix it. Then, finally, the Dutch have a fully operational copy of Hansa. It runs smoothly. The market is now live on servers in the Netherlands. Meanwhile, on Reddit, several users encourage other Redditors to migrate their business to Hansa. One post says,
"As a forum moderator, I have tested most of the biggest marketplaces, and I think Hansa Market is the best option for Alpha Bay refugees."
An editor at Reason magazine later suggests posts like these may have been written by the Dutch police. We can't know for sure. A whole team of Dutch undercover agents takes turns impersonating the Hansa admins. No one on Hansa appears to have realized what's happened in the background. Users connecting to the same onion address are no longer directed to the original Hansa servers in Lithuania. Instead, they're connected to the version the Dutch have constructed on their own network. From the user's perspective, nothing appears to have changed. The site's onion address remains identical. But behind the scenes, the Dutch police are retrofitting the market. While it was initially designed to protect users' privacy, the agents now work to make it do the exact opposite. They rewrite the site's code. Usernames and passwords are now logged in plain text. They archive every message before it's encrypted with PGP. Investigators can see real shipping addresses. They also save uploaded product photos along with their metadata. Metadata looks like this and can contain info such as where a picture was taken. Useful clues to pin down vendors' real-life locations. The Dutch include boxes for shipment tracking numbers, shipping addresses, and other information. They advise vendors to keep these updated. But even with these tricks, they only identify some of the vendors. They want more. So they hold evil plan meetings, brainstorming sessions to figure out how to unmask even more vendors.
Yeah, we actually did that.
Each idea is ranked by how effective it is and how likely it is to blow their cover. At one point, the Dutch delete every image on Hansa. They claim that a server failed due to a technical glitch. Vendors need to re-upload all the images for their listings. Through the new images metadata, they're able to identify the locations of over 50 more vendors. In the final phase of Operation Bayonet, they send vendors an Excel spreadsheet containing codes. These supposedly allow vendors to retrieve the bitcoins they have stored in escrow on the market, even if the site is taken down. At first, only a few take the bait. To make it more tempting, the police add features like buyer statistics, allowing vendors to track and rank their best customers. In the top left corner of the Excel spreadsheet, the Dutch agents integrate an image of the Hansa logo. It loads from Dutch police servers. The moment someone opens the file, the server logs the requesting computer's IP address. Using this tactic, they identify another 64 vendors. Next, the investigators start recruiting. They look for new moderators. After reviewing experience and qualifications, they ask applicants for their home addresses, supposedly to receive a two-factor authentication token. And some actually send their home address. One applicant even jokes,
"Please don't send the cops to this address. Ha 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 ha, just kidding."
In a particularly inventive move, they send packages with stuffed pandas to moderator applicants who've only provided a drop-off address. They hope the recipients will bring these cute stuffed toys home. A GPS tracker hidden inside will then reveal where they live. The Dutch team has been running Hansa for 27 days now, and they still have more ideas, more tricks up their sleeve. They're hyped, but they've been operating on the dark side long enough, and prosecutors decide it's time to call it quits.
Baraka, you're still in bed. You're not serious. Wake up.
Daniel is annoyed. He's been buying his drugs on Alphabay for a long time, but Alpha O2 apparently pulled an exit scam a few weeks ago. Luckily, there are alternatives. This time it's Hansa, recommended by people on Reddit. A vendor messes up Daniel's order, but Hansa customer service is great. The problem is fixed quickly. A short time later, Daniel wants to check his order again. On his screen, the Hansa logo appears, but it's no longer a ship proudly sailing. Instead, it's sunk. Dutch police are shutting Hansa down. For this pivotal moment, they gather in a conference room in the Dutch police's national headquarters in The Hague. The head of the agency leans forward and presses a big red plastic button. But it's just for show. The real action is happening here. This agent takes the darknet market offline. During their investigation, Dutch police claim they monitored 27,000 transactions. They collected data on 420,000 Hansa users and obtained more than 10,000 addresses. They seized 1,200 bitcoins, which were worth around $2.3 million at the time, and they arrested several top vendors. With the seizure notice, Dutch authorities redirect visitors to a second website. Here, they've published a list of Hansa vendors using their pseudonyms and sorted into two categories: active and arrested, plus identified buyers. A warning runs across the top. Active at dark markets? You have our attention. Dutch Candy Shop is among the vendors identified. We can only imagine what that must feel like.
This is the largest dark market web place takedown in world history.
Operation Bayonet landed a serious blow to trust among darknet users, just as the authorities had hoped. When Hansa suddenly went offline, panic rippled through the community. But after a while, things went back to normal. New darknet markets rose. They still collectively process billions of dollars per year. Meanwhile, encrypted messaging apps became popular for selling drugs. Users already have those on their phone, so no Tor browser required. Authorities continue to struggle in the war on drugs, with no end in sight.